If you logged on this weekend, you probably noticed something big. I got a new banner. Yes, that was one thing. And no, for real. And you also probably noticed the trending topic, hashtag, where are the children? Right? Most of you were probably like, I wonder what this is about. And one of you was probably thinking, oh shit, the jig is up. But actually, the hashtag was about this.
The Washington Post reports the U.S. lost track of nearly 1,500 immigrant children in the last 3 months of last year. The children crossed the border with Mexico on their own and were taken into custody. They were placed with adult sponsors in the U.S. Last month, the Department of Health and Human Services officials said the agency had lost track of them.
The Department of Health and Human Services lost 1,500 immigrant children. How do you lose 1,500 children? If you want to find them, just let R. Kelly sniff a piece of their clothes. He'll find them. Yeah, come on, Pied Piper, use your powers for good. Now, if you were only reading the headlines and the tweets, you'd be thinking right now that the Trump administration had captured and then lost 1,500 kids. And because of that, people online lost their shit. They were like, this is an outrage. How could Donald Trump lose our precious immigrant babies? I'm so angry I could scream. Because that's how these things start, right? Someone reads a headline, then they start a hashtag. People retweet the hashtag without doing their own research, and that creates a snowball of outrage. But the truth is, Trump hasn't lost track of any kids.
There may be a reason that these 1,500 children can't be found right now. They may not want to be found.
The Department of Health and Human Services says that the children are not missing. Rather, they are unaccounted for because their sponsors have refused to respond to follow-up calls. Now, sources in the shelters for the children tell CNN some sponsors could be undocumented as well and don't want to interact with U.S. immigration officers.
Yeah, you see, it turns out these immigrant kids aren't lost by Trump. They just don't want any contact with anyone in the Trump administration, sort of like Melania. Now, at the same time as this was happening, another misinformed immigration scandal blew up online. Someone tweeted these photos of the U.S. government holding undocumented children in cages. And again, without doing research, people online lost their shit. The president has caged our precious children. He's milking them like cows. What has become of our republic? Impeach! But once again, this group of people didn't get its facts straight. Because you see, those kids, unfortunately, yes, they were sleeping in cages. But this picture was from 2014, when the president was slightly less tan, right? And what was weird for me was that when people thought it was Trump, they were like, what kind of monster would put children in cages? And then they found out it happened under Obama, and all of a sudden they were like, look, I mean, sometimes kids gotta be caged, you know? And cages are complicated things. I mean, there's good cages, Luke Cage, Nicolas Cage, the bird cage. The point is, I've deleted my tweets, but still impeach! And look, I understand that people do genuinely care about this issue, but sometimes it pays to slow down. Let's take a breath. Let's read past headlines before we start sharing misleading stories that Trump will use to discredit all other news. He's gonna do it. He did it with this story. So, just so we're on the same page, Trump didn't lose 1,500 kids, and his administration didn't put those kids in cages, all right? But don't worry, you can still hate him. Because he and his administration have started doing something that is way worse.
Attorney General Jeff Sessions announced tough new immigration policies that will go into effect soon that will separate parents and children caught illegally crossing the border.
If you are smuggling a child, then we will prosecute you. And that child may be separated from you as required by law.
How can someone so cute be so evil? Because although Trump will still skin over here smiling while he's saying this, you have to admit this is a heartless way to deter people from coming into the U.S. illegally. There are less cruel ways to discourage people from coming into the U.S. Instead of taking their kids away, why not just force everyone crossing illegally to look at this picture of Ted Cruz at the Rockets game? Why not do that? Yeah, which, by the way, I don't blame James Harden for missing all those shots. Yeah. Imagine trying to play with that face in the crowd. You tell me you would make a shot. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if Harden made a shot, saw Ted Cruz smile, and then was like, oh, I'm never doing that again. Yeah. And this new policy's cruelty, it isn't just in how it separates kids from their parents. It's how Trump's people don't even seem to care about what's going to happen to the kids once they've taken them away.
White House Chief of Staff John Kelly has dismissed criticism of this policy shift, saying during a recent interview with NPR the children will be taken care of, put into foster care, or whatever.
Foster care or whatever. Yeah, that totally makes it sound like you care. Was he that nonchalant when he was in the Marines? General, what's the plan of attack? When I give the signal, we go in with the guns and something, something, and then like, whatever. Now, when this policy first started, I think President Trump was probably thrilled with it. He was like, we're taking kids away from their parents. Pack your bags, Eric. We're going to the border. Come on, Eric, let's go. But as it turns out, the blowback from this policy has been so fierce that even President Trump is now going, it wasn't me.
President Trump falsely laid the blame for the policy separating children from their parents at the border on the Democrats. The president tweeted out Saturday morning, put pressure on the Democrats to end the horrible law that separates children from their parents once they cross the border into the United States.
Wow, really? This is the Democrats' responsibility? Even for Trump, that's a terrible lie. Come on, everyone knows the Democrats don't run shit. But that should just tell you how awful this real policy is. This is the first thing ever that Trump doesn't want to put his name on.